The NBA is officially back, and for this season, I'm going to do more predictions. On my other screen, I've got last season's standings. I'm going to go through them in a minute. Shout out to Kenny Farrell. Did the whole Enjoy Basketball brand. Link will be in the description for his channel. I'm just going to start off with the East. No, DeRozan left the Bulls. He did go to the Kings, so maybe I'll jump back and forth between conferences just as we're going along. But they got Josh Giddey from the Thunder. Kind of had the same young core that hasn't worked out the last few seasons. So I think they're just going to miss the playoffs, basically. The Kings, I should really sort out how I'm doing this, but I think the Kings could make a run like what they did the other season, but I'm just going to put them in the middle right now, and I'll quickly shuffle through some teams and talk about them in a minute. Here we got to put Boston number one. Obviously, they won the championship last season. Even in the playoffs, I think they only lost like 3 games. And they kind of let themselves down in some series like the Pacers. They let the team get back in it. Then they saved themselves, so I don't even think they were 100%, and they didn't make any moves from my memory. So let's just leave them at 1. Last season, Detroit had that all-time losing record. Let's check the standings here. They were 14-68, so only 1 game off the Wizards after all of that. But I think they will improve. Maybe slowly. But their young core is actually pretty new and pretty good compared to other teams at the moment. So I think they could surprise a few people and keep developing. Who won't surprise me is the Wizards. I think they are by far the worst team in the NBA. Let's see right here. They're 1 game off, but like, come on. Everybody else was 6 games at least above the Pistons. The Pistons can't have an all-time losing streak and you be 1 game above. And there's just no responsibility on the team, it feels like. They've got Jordan Poole, they've got Kuzma. Do these guys really want to play their role compared to other teams above them? And I don't think they can. And depending on who they're tanking for, even the guy in the next draft might not help them for a few years. So they're going to be at the bottom for a while. I'm going to stick with the East from now on. And Philly got Paul George. So I don't know how to feel about that. I used to be a Philadelphia fan. I don't really support anybody right now. But I think Paul George helps take the weight off Embiid. Plus, I heard he's missing back-to-back games, which is big for their record. So they could finish like 5th but make a conference final. So you never know with Philadelphia. I might put them 4th for now because I think the Bucks, who could be 3rd, will sort it out. They had a really good run to start the half of the season last year. Where'd they end up? Ended up 49-33. I'm pretty sure at one point they were like 30-15. Which if you look at it from there, with Doc Rivers as the second half coach, they were like 500. Middleton's also out to start the season, I'm pretty sure, but in terms of regular season, Dame and Giannis, second season together, I think they could sort it out, and they're going to go above Philly for me unless something changes. But this second spot, I'm going to go New York. Couple changes. They got Cat. They traded away a few pieces. Julius Randle was gone, but he didn't really play last season on their run to the conference semifinals. Obviously, the Pacers beat them, but I'm pretty sure Brunson was injured for like half the series. Now, they ended up with 50 wins, so they were second last season. So I'm looking pretty identical at the moment in the standings, but I just think a healthier team with Cat. He fits more of the style. I think they got Mikal Bridges as well. So all around, this is one of the deepest rosters in the NBA. So they're a good chance to make conference finals. So second looks alright for me. Brooklyn Nets had 32 wins, which kind of shocks me. But I think they could drop below these teams here. And there's not really a young core to rave about. Nick Claxton's probably one of the most underrated defenders in the league at the moment. Lost Mikal Bridges, who was their best player. And he is a good player in his own right, but that doesn't say a lot if everybody else around him is not up to that level at all. Cam Thomas was dropping like 40 a night for 1 week last season, so I'm going to put them 14th. And then 12 here slots in Toronto pretty nicely. Maybe I could move them above Chicago. I might for now, just because they have Scotty, they have a younger core. I feel like they've got the most versatile players in the NBA. Maybe like a couple games ago in preseason, Lonzo came back, so that could help the Bulls, but you never know. And if I look at their standing, they had 25 wins. I think the bottom 4 of each conference could be similar, but I'll have to get to the West because I think the West is always different every season. So that means above Toronto, I've got Charlotte. And then right now I'm going to put Atlanta and just going to do those quick 2. They're very offense-based teams. Both pass heavy, shoot heavy point guards. LaMelo was injured a lot last season, and they finished with 21 wins. Brandon Miller's going to keep on improving. I think their top end, when they play together, plays better than Toronto. I just think Toronto's got too many different pieces. But from recent years, Charlotte hasn't made playoffs. Toronto's been in the play-in. Which you could same with Atlanta. You could say what you want, but I'm just stuck with these teams at the moment. So maybe I'll swap Toronto and Charlotte. I don't know. Maybe I'll do that. But this like bottom 7 from the East isn't that good. So then I'm gonna put these last 4 in real quick. I'm gonna go Miami. I'm gonna go Indiana, Orlando, and then Cleveland. Now, if I look at these same group of teams from last season, the Heat to the Cavs, there was only a 2-win difference, and then if you put Philly in there. But the Bulls to the rest is a big drop off, and I think the Bucks compared to the Cavs don't really count. The Cavs had injuries and they kept winning, but the Bucks were going to be like a 2 seed without Doc Rivers, basically, is what I'm trying to say. So, from looking at that, I think these teams are interchangeable, and I'm going to get something wrong at the end of the season, 100%. But Indiana's got the best offense in the league, probably the worst defense in the league. I think there was that one game against the Hawks around November where it was like 140 to 140. So it's a bit of a head scratcher, really, because I moved Philly up by a lot looking to last season, but the teams never stay the same. But I just think Toronto and then everybody else below Toronto can't really move up. And I see Miami could take it seriously. I heard Jimmy Butler's doing more work, which could mean anything because last season they didn't really want to try in the regular season, and then they lost in the play-in or something. But Orlando's going to keep developing. So, on to the West. I've already done Sacramento. I did them like right at the start. They got DeRozan, and if I just click off here, last season, where were they? They were 46 and 36, which would have had them outside of the playoffs. But by 1 game, and the Lakers got a couple wins towards the end of the season. So I'm just trying to do some guesswork here. Because the Kings missed, but who do I think will drop off? That is the question. I think the Lakers could drop off. I think the Suns could drop off. So the Lakers were 8th. So maybe I'll put the Lakers in 8th for now, or I'll drop them. And then who was bottom last season? Portland. I don't think Portland moves off the bottom. And then I think Utah will drop. Well, we all know San Antonio is going to improve 100%. It's just by how much because of Wemby. Where did they finish? 22 wins last season, and Wemby had a really good season. Memphis were injured, and they were still 5 wins above. So, yeah, the West is already so much better. You can see it. I'll put Memphis in 10th right now. Them and the Lakers, the depth is kind of the same. You got a point guard, Ja, and a point guard, LeBron LeBron's going to pass more at his age. Then you got Triple J and AD, the same type of player, the same mold, but the Lakers have a better version of that. And then the Grizzlies have Bane, but I think the Lakers running out of the roster have better players. And I'll quickly speed it up again. Who are we going in 12th place? It seems pretty simple now that I look at it. But I do think Houston will improve. That's the question. I don't think Phoenix will drop off. They still had 49 wins. They barely had a team. That is what I'm saying. So look how stacked the West is. Brooklyn here had 32, and in the same spot, Houston were like 10 wins better. But I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna chuck the Clippers in. They lost. Kawhi's not playing. Paul George is gone. The young guys, they can't compare to the other teams at the moment. And I'm not seeing nothing special. So they're going to miss the playoffs. It's a big shocker for me. And they lost Russ as well. He went to the Nuggets. So, which then means they go from 51 wins. Maybe like out. I mean, dropping by 10 isn't that bad. They just missed the playoffs, which looks worse. But then in the 8th spot, I think I might put Phoenix. They got a couple better pieces, but I just think a lot of people fall off this season in the West. I don't know. I just think right now, the top end of the NBA, from last season in the playoffs, when they're clutch, it separates themselves from the good teams to the great teams. We saw it with the Nuggets a couple seasons back, but the Mavericks, nobody really expected that, and they only had 50 wins. but I still think they can rise. And I'm getting jumbled around here, so I'm just gonna slow down for a minute. But then here in 12, I might put Houston. That's the only spot there. So Golden State to Clippers, which is 4-10, is 5 wins. So every season people change wins like easily. So the Warriors lost Clay. They could drop 5, or for some reason, because of their youth, they could go up by 5. And the Clippers, I think they can drop off by 10, which like flips the whole bracket around. And then I think the Suns could fall back. But the Pelicans, I didn't even realize they had like 50 wins basically. Which is insane because you don't look at that team like that with all the problems with Zion. But then every season in the West, there's always like 6 teams with at least 50 wins. The question is, where will I put them? So I think New Orleans, if it works out, they could go 6. At the moment, I'm going to swap Golden State and Sacramento. Because there was only 3 wins between them, basically. I'm going to put New Orleans to rise up. I'm going to put... I think Denver will drop off in the regular season. At 3, I'm going to put Dallas. They get a few more wins. 2, Minnesota. 1, OKC. And looking at last season, it's the same teams are up there just about. Maybe I'll drop Minnesota because Julius Randle in the preseason looks a bit lost for their chemistry and play style. So, yeah, Minnesota could fall. Now that I put New Orleans and Sacramento there, they look a bit shaky. I don't know. It's a weird time in the NBA because there's a lot of old guys dropping out and a lot of newcomers coming up. But then you've got some established young superstars. You've got Luka, Ja's coming back. Anthony Edwards has emerged himself basically, but he's still inconsistent a little bit in the playoffs for my liking. I think I'm done. I don't know what else I could do. Maybe move more people around. But yeah, I might just leave it at that. So I hope you guys enjoyed. As I said at the start, shout out Kenny. Link will be in the description for this Enjoy Basketball bracket. I've also been looking at a basketball reference here on this other screen, so or that way. Maybe it will help you guys if you just search up the standings of last season. But yeah, the Celtics were far ahead. OKC are young, and they were tied for first, so that tells you everything. I think they're just going to get 60 wins. I'm going to leave it like this. I'm never certain, but thanks for watching, and see you guys later in the season. Peace out.